So the Galaxy A15 5G, it's a smartphone that costs $200 in its retail price. And I know a lot of you are like me. You're sick and tired of spending $1,000 on a smartphone. We are in an economy that is crashing in very many ways, and a lot of people can't even afford to buy groceries. I understand there are reasons to buy expensive smartphones, and that's why I cover a lot of them on my channel. But that's why we as people, and even as tech reviewers, we need to look at cheaper smartphones to see what capabilities they have. And this A15 5G, I'm telling you, it pushes the market forward in a lot of ways, and I really think it has a lot of improvements over the A14 5G, and I think a lot of you should consider buying it. Now, if you look at the design, you're gonna see one reason why, and that is the design of this phone. I really feel there's a strong improvement this year over the A14 5G. Everything, even though it's made of plastic, I understand that, right? It is made of plastic. Oh no. Well, plastic's a little more durable in my opinion than glass, so it's not gonna break as easily. But also, if you look at the phone and just feel the phone, if you were to pick one of these up, you would be surprised because it does feel a little bit better in quality compared to the A14 5G. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I feel the buttons, they just feel a little clickier. They feel a little more secure. The fingerprint sensor is in the power button again this year, and it does feel very, very good. You do have a headphone jack as well, by the way, on the bottom of the phone. You do have a USB-C port, and you have your speaker here as well. So it does look very similar to the A14 5G. You're not gonna see a lot of huge differences as far as the looks. You are still gonna see a little notch here, and you are gonna see some bezels. You are gonna feel some plastic in the build, but it does just feel a little bit nicer in my hands, and that is a very, very good thing. The screen is still flat, so you can protect it with a tempered glass. Now, when we go to look at the display and the performance, you're gonna see there are actually some good improvements over last year's model as well. Like, we do have a Super AMOLED display here. In a $200 phone, we have AMOLED. It has a 90 hertz display, and I will say this once again, apparently Apple, I think they're struggling to get the message. I don't think they can even put 90 hertz in their $800 phones, but here we have a $200 phone with a 90 hertz AMOLED display. That is absolutely amazing. It's a 6.5-inch screen with a 2340 by 1080 resolution, and the colors, they look really, really good on this phone. So we do have a nice improvement over the A14 5G as far as the display. It looks really good. The colors do look fairly vivid. Just remember, this phone will not get as high as far as brightness levels as some other flagships out there. Obviously, this is a $200 phone, so one of the areas they had to cut down a little was on brightness, so you are going to get about 800 nits of brightness on this phone. And when we look at the performance of this phone, you have to see that this does have Android 14, so that's really, really nice. Now, the processor is a MediaTek Dimensity 6100 Plus, and technically I know in different parts of the world they might have different processors, I'm not really sure. But here in the US, this is going to perform fairly similarly to last year's A14 5G model. It does feel fairly smooth whenever I am actually going between apps and just scrolling around. But if I do open 5, 6, 7, 8 things at the same time, that's when things can start to slow down, mainly because it will have to reload some of those applications. And that's because the base model of this phone only comes with 4 gigabytes of RAM. But we do get 128 gigabytes of storage in the base model, and that is a plus. One thing you're going to have to keep in mind with this phone though, you are going to have to give it some time whenever you do boot it up for the first time. If you are setting up this phone and putting all of your apps on this phone, a lot of things are going to be going on in the background. So this phone is going to feel very, very slow, at least for the first few hours. Once you have all that done, if you do turn your phone off for any reason and you turn it back on, I did notice that everything would feel a little bit slow for the first 5 or 10 minutes. Or if my phone was downloading some apps in the background, things would feel a little bit slower. But once all of that was taken care of, I did notice that this phone would speed up, the UI would speed up a lot more, and I was able to get a lot of great basic work done. And whenever I am using this phone, if you do compare it to other budget phones out there, it's annoying when high-end reviewers are always comparing budget phones to high-end phones, right? This is going to be on a different level. We do have to understand that. So keep your expectations in check. If you are expecting a $400, $500, $600 phone, that's not what you're going to get here. But for $200, everything has advanced so much over the years, and now this phone phone, it does feel very fluid whenever I'm moving through the menus. It's not lagging. Whenever I'm opening up 2 or 3 different apps, whenever I'm going between them, everything does feel very smooth, and that 90 Hz refresh rate is making a big difference. So if you are someone just looking for a phone to do the basics, this is going to do a great job. And it has a lot of things that you're really going to like a 5,000 milliamp battery. So as you're going between apps, it's going to last a very long time. And one thing I'm doing on my phone very often, I have to check a lot of things on my phone. I get a lot of emails that come in. As a YouTuber, I have to check all those. But I also try to check and use my technology to my advantage. So I do have the Whisker app. It actually allows me to check on my cat, and I can actually control the litter box directly from my phone, which is pretty awesome. I could check my cat's weight, and I can see if the litter box is full. So that's why I'm so grateful that Whisker is actually sponsoring this video, because they've actually been a pretty big part of my life for a while. Because I have a cat, I take a lot of pictures of my cat, and as you take a look here, you're gonna see I did take some pretty decent shots with the camera of my cat. So my cat's great and everything. I absolutely love my cat. The one thing I don't love is when my cat is doing its nasty, dirty business, right? So that's why I do have a litter robot, because it actually takes all that nastiness, it puts it in an area that I can't see it, and it actually puts it in a trash can for me, and it actually seals up the odor so that you can't smell it as well in the house. So I still keep mine in the basement, but regardless, it's still pretty awesome that I don't have to mess with litter all the time. I save a lot of time, and I even save money on litter costs because it does actually do everything it's gonna do within a few minutes, so there's not a bunch of nasty stuff clumping up in there. It gives your animal a fresh space to do its business, and it actually gives you a peace of mind, and you don't have to deal with that funky smell all the time. So I really appreciate the Litter Robot 4. It's awesome that I could actually check all these things out from my phone. So now let's get back to the video and let's talk about the cameras for the Galaxy A15 5G. So like I said, I got some good pictures of my cat, right? But if you look at other people, other images outside, I was able to get okay pictures. But you do have to remember, this is a $200 phone. And if you're gonna have a budget phone, this is one of the areas that this phone is a little bit weak in. Sure, it might be a little bit improved over last year. We do have a 50 megapixel camera here, but it's not going to be great in bad lighting conditions, and it's still not going to be quite as good as some other $300 or $400 phones out there. If you're someone who's wanting to get a really cheap phone with a decent camera, you might want to look for something like a Google Pixel 6a. But this has a lot of advantages over the 6a, like a 5,000 milliamp battery. So whenever you look at all that and you look at Samsung's track record, they do typically update their smartphones a little longer than a lot of other manufacturers out there. That does make this an awesome phone. Now, it does not have Samsung DeX. You are going to have to charge it a little bit longer than some other phones because the charging speed's a little bit slower. It's just 25-watt charging, so that's a little disappointing. And even when we look at video quality, remember, this is not going to have amazing 4K video. You're just going to have to deal with some 1080p, and that does really stink. The fingerprint sensor is decent. It's good, but it's not my favorite. Remember, it is in the power button. It's not in the display. So there are some minor things that we have to deal with. Of course, we have plastic in the build. These are some compromises that Samsung was making for $200. So we are in a better day and age as far as speed and performance, and getting an AMOLED display with 90 Hz for $200. I think the A15 has done a great job overall, and I'm just pretty impressed with it. The compromises are pretty minor. Yeah, the camera is probably one of the bigger compromises, but if you could deal with that and some of the smaller stuff you get, you are going to get an SD card slot, you're going to get a headphone jack, a gorgeous AMOLED display, and pretty decent performance. So for $200, would I recommend it? Absolutely. This is a great phone for $200, and I even love this awesome rainbow look that you get whenever you put this color in different conditions. It looks absolutely great. Now, would I recommend someone who wants a $400, $500, $600 smartphone, would I recommend you buy this? No. Just go buy a phone in the price range that you're at. I do understand that. But if you are someone who has been used to more budget phones out there and you're just used to that, then you're really going to enjoy this because it's a great budget phone. And for $200, I really don't think you can go wrong. So hopefully this review has helped you out. If you did like this review, please give me a like and give me a sub. And check out those links in the description, especially for this phone. I know Samsung does actually run a lot of promos, so check out those links and check out the links as well to my sponsor, Whisker. I really appreciate Whisker for sponsoring this. And you can buy the Litter Robot 4, by the way, at Best Buy. They have a lot of great partnerships out there, so check out those links there. Thank you so much. I hope hope you all have a tremendous day, and if you get a little bit of extra time, check out some other videos.